and welcome to today's class on understanding geography with diagram. We'll be talking about today the policies encouraging the population growth. Now, basically, such policies has been majorly implemented in the European Union or within the European nations. Now, the population growth in the developed countries generally is very slow, and in some regions of the France, Germany, Luxembourg, Denmark, Russia, Austria, Finland, etc., it is even showing negative growth rate. What is this negative growth rate? Negative growth rate happens when your fertility rate is below your mortality rate. This is your mortality rate, this is your fertility rate. Or I can say that they are in the fifth stage of the demographic transition. Now, understand this. The pro-natalist policies in the Europe can be divided again into two phases, the first and the second phase. The first phase is traced back to the decades of 1960, which included the coercive methods. What are those coercive methods? The coercive methods are nothing such as the banning the contraceptives and abortion is permitted only on doctor's order in the hope that the birth rate can be increased. Example is Romania. However, this was severely criticized for infringing the fundamental right. Let us look into the context of the Ireland. Recently itself in the Ireland had passed a bill via which it said that the abortion would be legal. This was basically happened because of, you remember, I don't know if you remember, it was in 2013. What happened was that the Sabita Halpanar, what she actually went on a miscarriage, and she was completely denied abortion because the Irish policy, which was under the influence of the Catholic Church, had completely restricted the abortion in their own country. This was nothing but to increase their population. But this actually what happened was this infringed the sexual rights of the women. This was the biggest thing that it did. And entirely we can say their fundamental right was challenged. Now, please understand this. It was in the second phase from 1970 to the present. The coercive measures was discarded. This came recently. It was done in 2018 itself. This was very discarded very recently. That this was discarded by most European countries and voluntary measures were adopted. What were these voluntary measures? Voluntary measures included your economic incentives. France, for example, granted substantial payment of services to the parent to help child rearing, parental subsidies, housing priorities, generous maternity leaves at full salaries are amongst the inducement for multiple child families. Again, low interest loans for the home. See, you do not have to write. You can simply say that low interest loans for the family, grant of substantial payment of payments and services, etc. Molding of the town planning. The molding of the town planning to generate neighborhood facility for infants. Sorry, to generate has been remained. I have written it two times. To generate facilities for the infant and the young kids, such as the playground. Playgrounds means basically they entirely molded the town planning so that if the families are having more children, then they should also have more areas for the children to play and stay. Last but not the least, they have started the pro immigration. Sorry. Countries such as the Australia, New Zealand have considered themselves as underpopulated country. Hence, they have completely adopted this pro-immigration policies. But despite of this pro-immigration policy and despite of all this policy, what actually is happening is that the population rate is not growing at that rate that it should. Hence, we can say that the population policy or the population control policy is somewhat not that successful, or the population growth policy is somewhat not that successful. That will be all. Thank you.